Today we're focusing on ocular assessment and diagnostic evaluation. We'll review the major structures of the eye, how the eye maintains vision, and the diagnostic evaluations commonly used to assess ocular function and disease processes. The eye is unique because many internal structures can be directly visualized during examination. The eyeball sits within a bony orbit shaped like a four-sided pyramid and is surrounded by connective tissue, adipose tissue, blood vessels, and muscles. The orbit is bordered by the frontal sinus superiorly, the ethmoid sinus medially, and the maxillary sinus inferiorly. The optic nerve and ophthalmic artery enter through the optic foramen at the apex of the orbit. Eye movement is controlled by 4 rectus muscles and 2 oblique muscles. These muscles are innervated by cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6. Coordinated movement of both eyes is necessary for the brain to perceive a single unified image. The eyelids are composed of thin elastic skin with smooth and striated muscle. The upper lid normally covers part of the upper iris and is innervated by cranial nerve 3. Important structures include the canthi, puncta, eyelashes, and meibomian glands. Blinking helps distribute tears across the cornea and conjunctiva. The conjunctiva is a transparent mucous membrane that acts as a protective barrier. The palpebral conjunctiva lines the inner eyelids, while the bulbar conjunctiva covers the sclera. These structures meet at the fornix and join the cornea at the limbus. The tear film contains lipid, aqueous, and mucus layers produced by the lacrimal and accessory lacrimal glands. These layers nourish the cornea and create a smooth optical surface. Defects in the tear film can compromise corneal integrity. The outer structural layer of the eye includes the sclera and cornea. The sclera is white, dense, and avascular, helping maintain eye shape and protect internal contents. The cornea is transparent, avascular, highly innervated, and functions as the main refracting surface of the eye. The corneal epithelium can regenerate, while the endothelium does not regenerate. The middle vascular layer, also called the uveal tract, includes the iris, ciliary body, and choroid. The iris controls pupil size through sympathetic and parasympathetic muscle activity. The ciliary body produces aqueous humor and controls lens focusing through zonular fibers. The choroid nourishes the outer retina and absorbs scattered light. The inner neural layer includes the retina and optic nerve, which form the visual pathway. The eye is also divided into anterior and posterior segments based on location within the globe. The anterior and posterior chambers contain aqueous humor, which is produced by the ciliary body. Aqueous humor helps maintain intraocular pressure and nourishes anterior eye structures. Aqueous humor flows from the posterior chamber, through the pupil, into the anterior chamber, and drains through the trabecular meshwork and canal of Schlemm. Normal intraocular pressure is less than 21 millimeters of mercury. The vitreous humor is located in the vitreous chamber behind the lens. It is a gel-like substance that helps maintain the shape of the globe. With aging, the vitreous can shrink and contribute to floaters. The lens is transparent, biconvex, and avascular. It changes shape during accommodation to help focus on near and distant objects. Aging and disease can lead to cataract formation. The retina is the inner neural layer of the eye and is an extension of the optic nerve. It contains the retinal pigment epithelium, which absorbs light, and the sensory retina. The optic disc is the entry point of the optic nerve and retinal vessels. The macula is responsible for central vision, while the fovea contains the area of highest visual acuity and is completely avascular. Cones are concentrated in the fovea and are responsible for color vision and fine detail. Rods are absent in the fovea and are distributed throughout the remainder of the retina, functioning primarily in low light and night vision. Visual information travels from the retina through the optic nerve, optic chiasm, optic tract, lateral geniculate body, optic radiations, and finally to the occipital cortex. Cranial nerve 2 transmits visual impulses from the retina to the brain. At the optic chiasm, nasal retinal fibers cross, while temporal retinal fibers remain uncrossed. A lesion involving the right optic nerve causes unilateral blindness in the right eye. A lesion at the optic chiasm produces bitemporal hemianopia, commonly described as tunnel vision. A lesion involving the optic tract produces homonymous hemianopia. The right visual field is processed in the left occipital lobe, while the left visual field is processed in the right occipital lobe. Ocular history is used to gather critical information that helps guide diagnosis and should include relevant genetic history. Visual acuity testing serves as a baseline measure for outcomes, with 20/20 considered normal vision. Near vision is typically tested at 14 inches, while distance vision is tested at 20 feet. Standard tools include the Snellen chart for distance vision and the Rosenbaum screener for near vision. Alternative methods include tumbling E-charts, numbers, or pictures. Common abbreviations include OD for the right eye, OS for the left eye, and OU for both eyes. If a patient cannot see the largest letter, assessment progresses to counting fingers, hand motion detection, light perception, or no light perception. The physical examination begins with assessment of overall symmetry of the eyes and eyelids. Abnormal findings include ptosis, which is drooping of the upper lid, ectropion, where the lower lid turns outward, and entropion, where the lower lid turns inward and may cause trichiasis. Pupillary assessment is controlled primarily by cranial nerve 3. The room is darkened, and a pen light is used to evaluate whether the pupils are equal, reactive, and regular. Motility and gaze assessment involve cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6. Primary gaze is assessed while observing for head tilt, which may indicate cranial nerve palsy. The examiner also observes for nystagmus, tests extraocular movements through the 6 cardinal directions, and performs the cover-uncover test to detect gaze shift. General diagnostic principles include educating the patient, understanding contraindications, and monitoring trends related to disease progression and therapy response. Direct ophthalmoscopy uses a handheld instrument with plus and minus lenses to sequentially focus on the cornea, lens, and retina. The examiner uses the right eye and right hand to examine the patient's right eye, and the left eye and left hand for the left eye. The examination sequence includes assessment of the retinal vasculature, optic nerve and cup-to-disc ratio, retinal periphery, and macula. Abnormal findings may include hemorrhages, lipid deposits, cotton wool spots, microaneurysms, and drusen. Indirect ophthalmoscopy uses a binocular headpiece with a handheld 20-diopter lens and provides a larger unmagnified retinal view compared to direct ophthalmoscopy. Slit lamp examination uses a table-mounted binocular microscope with magnification ranging from 10 to 40 times. It is used to evaluate anterior chamber inflammation, cataracts, angle assessment, and fundus examination with a contact lens. Tonometry measures intraocular pressure through applanation and is commonly used in glaucoma monitoring. During tonometry, patients should avoid squeezing the eyelids, holding their breath, or performing a Valsalva maneuver because these actions can affect intraocular pressure readings. Ultrasonography includes A-scan and B-scan testing. The A-scan measures axial length before cataract surgery, while the B-scan helps identify orbital tumors, retinal detachment, and vitreous hemorrhage. Optical coherence tomography, or OCT, provides non-invasive high-resolution imaging used to evaluate retinal, macular, and anterior segment diseases. Angiography includes fluorescein angiography and indocyanine green angiography. Fluorescein angiography is used to evaluate macular edema, non-perfusion, and neovascularization. Indocyanine green angiography is used primarily to evaluate the choroidal vasculature. Before the procedure, renal function should be assessed by checking BUN and creatinine levels. Patients should be hydrated before and after the procedure, and encouraged to increase fluid intake afterward. Patients should also be informed that they may experience a transient warm sensation or metallic taste during dye injection. The injection site should be monitored throughout the procedure. Indocyanine green angiography is contraindicated in patients with iodide allergy. Topographic imaging includes laser scanning and fundus photography. Confocal scanning ophthalmoscopy creates a three-dimensional image of the optic nerve and is commonly used in glaucoma and papilledema evaluation. Laser scanning polarimetry measures retinal nerve fiber layer thickness. Fundus photography documents retinal lesions and can provide stereoscopic imaging for evaluating elevations such as macular edema. Color vision testing evaluates cone-mediated vision, with the macula containing the highest concentration of cones. Inherited color deficits commonly involve red-green deficiency and are X-linked. Acquired color vision changes may occur with cataracts or medications such as digitalis. Common tools include Ishihara plates and the red cap test. Perimetry testing evaluates both central and peripheral visual fields. It helps identify central scotomas associated with macular degeneration and peripheral visual field defects associated with conditions such as glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa. Perimetry is also important for monitoring glaucoma progression over time. The Amsler grid is used to assess macular disease, particularly age-related macular degeneration. Patients monitor for distortion, fading, or wavy lines within the grid pattern. Ocular diagnostic testing evaluates both structural and functional components of the eye. Tonometry and slit lamp examination assess intraocular pressure and anterior segment structures. Angiography evaluates retinal and choroidal blood flow and vascular pathology. Perimetry and laser scanning assess visual fields and analyze the optic nerve head. The Amsler grid and optical coherence tomography evaluate central vision and provide detailed imaging of retinal layers. B-scan ultrasonography evaluates the posterior segment and is especially useful when media opacity limits visualization. Together, these diagnostic tools provide integrated information about ocular anatomy, retinal function, optic nerve integrity, and vascular status. Ocular assessment combines anatomy, physiology, clinical examination, and diagnostic imaging to evaluate both structure and function of the eye. Key concepts include understanding the 3 layers of the globe, maintaining normal intraocular pressure below 21, and recognizing that visual information travels from the retina through the optic nerve to the occipital cortex. Visual acuity testing establishes a baseline for vision assessment, while tools such as slit lamp examination, tonometry, OCT, angiography, perimetry, and ultrasonography help identify retinal, vascular, optic nerve, and anterior chamber abnormalities. Clinically important abnormalities include ptosis, cataracts, glaucoma, retinal disease, visual field deficits, and elevated intraocular pressure. Remember the standard eye abbreviations: OD for the right eye, OS for the left eye, and OU for both eyes.